I will rank these Roblox horror games on a tier list. Starting with The Mimic is a really well-made game. It has really good graphics and a surprising amount of content. The game has a story mode, which has one completed book with the second one being updated. It also has a bunch of extra content called game modes. The graphics are a big thing in this game that makes it special, and the game likes to showcase them a lot. The game does not come without its problems. My biggest issues in this game are the bugs. This game has lots of bugs and glitches. In Book 2 Chapter 1, there is this one monster that can kill you through walls. Also, she has a really loud jump scare noise. The gameplay also sometimes repeats itself. This is evident in Book 1, where it's just a bunch of mazes with monsters inside them. Now, it's not always a bad thing because the visuals look great and the monsters are cool. Book 2 is way better. It has longer chapters that are just constructed better. I would love to take a closer look at the Book 2 chapters individually, but I really can't do that for this video. One of the best things in Book 2 is the gameplay. There is a lot of variety in the chapters. Way more than in Book 1. Book 1 does have its moments. Like this part in Book 1 Chapter 3, where you have to find bells. And overall, I think Book 1 Chapter 3 is the best chapter in Book 1 gameplay-wise. Also, the boss fight in Book 1 Chapter 4 is pretty fun. It is annoying if you don't know what you are doing. And that is another problem with Book 1. The monsters are most of the time pretty fast and it takes a while to understand everything. The game's biggest strength are the visuals. Book 1 and 2 look stunning. There are also game modes. They are okay. I really like Nightmare Circus and the Christmas Trials. Halloween Trials and Witch Trials on the other hand are quite rough. Overall, I love the Mimic. It's not perfect, but it has enough enjoyment for it to be a great, fantastic game. Rainbow Friends is a very popular Roblox horror game. Honestly, Rainbow Friends is not scary at all, but that's not really the game's goal. I mean, when you name the characters based on their color, I don't know how original it is. Rainbow Friends is another mascot horror game that prioritizes on making marketable characters instead of making a good game. The game is not completely garbage though. Chapter 2 is actually a lot better than Chapter 1. The biggest issue with the game, in my opinion, is the gameplay. You have to explore the map and find items and bring them somewhere. It's the exact same every time. It's just kinda repetitive. The game is also extremely easy. Not only are the monsters outrunnable almost every time, but the game gives you a hiding spot that you can deploy anywhere at any time. Rainbow Friends does not even have a hard mode or anything. The game also allows you to have a giant group of players with you. I guess it can be hard if all of your teammates camp in boxes the entire game. As a horror game, Rainbow Friends fails pretty badly. It's very hard to get scared by the character designs and the setting. Chapter 2 is way better though. The setting is still not scary. But I like how interactive the area is. You can ride the Ferris wheel and the other rides, which is pretty cool. The gameplay is still the exact same as in Chapter 1, which is pretty disappointing. Anyway, there is not really that much to say about the game. I would talk about the different unique mechanics and gameplay, but this game really does not have a lot. The game does its job of being a playable game. It can actually be pretty fun if you play with friends. I don't know how to feel about the Intruder. It's a pretty good game sometimes, but it has lots of issues. The Intruder's gameplay is inspired by Five Nights at Freddy's. Basically, you look at cameras in a room and avoid him. I think graphically the game looks pretty good. And the Intruder is pretty scary. The game has 6 different levels that you can play. My favorite, by far, is the house level, because it's the scariest and the gameplay resembles Five Nights at Freddy's the most. It's easy to understand and it's just simple yet terrifying. The mall level is good as well. Not as good as the house though, because the house is a little bit scarier. The mines is not really a great level. All you do is turn on generators and hide in lockers. It's not that scary either because you can just camp one generator the entire game. The mental hospital is alright. The only bad thing about it is that you have to walk a bunch before you get to the gameplay. The lounge is not that great. It barely has any gameplay in it at all. The visuals are pretty scary, but there are not any dangers for the majority of the game. There is also hotel level. It's fine, I guess. It's pretty confusing at first, but you get the hang of it after a while. Overall, I'm not the biggest fan of the Intruder. I only really like the first 2 levels. The others feel a little bit janky to play. Because I only like a few parts of the game, I am putting it in the C tier. It's above Rainbow Friends because the Intruder is at least scary. Now it's time to talk about Apeirophobia. I have actually never played this one before. And after playing, I don't think I will return. I was not a fan of this one. I think the whole concept of a backrooms game is almost impossible to get right, since the backrooms is just an infinite maze that is designed to lose your sanity. That, as a video game, sounds miserable to play. And yeah, I'd say Apeirophobia is pretty miserable to play. There are some aspects of the game that I like. I think the graphics look really good, and overall it feels like it's not a Roblox game. The gameplay though is not really fun. The stamina system is really annoying. You can run out of stamina but you don't know when. The gameplay of the first level is just running around and avoiding the monsters sometimes. You can argue that the Mimic has very similar gameplay, but Mimic handles it so much better. The Mimic gives you infinite revives on normal mode, so you don't have to worry about dying too much. Mimic also keeps every part very compact and easy to understand, while keeping it different from the other parts. I think Apeirophobia is a very hit or miss game. The game gets a little bit more interesting if you make it far enough. But even then the bad parts of the game still apply. Like the stamina system. It's really annoying how you can't track your stamina in any way. Overall, Apeirophobia's biggest strengths are the graphics and immersion. Everything else is very boring to play. In my opinion, the most important thing in making a good game is the gameplay itself. I'm not hating on people who really like this game. I'm sure it's fun once you get really good at it. I just don't think the backrooms is a great concept for a game. "3008 is a really cool game. It has a very simple premise that works very well. 3008 is based on the popular SCP-3008. It's an infinite IKEA with faceless IKEA employees. In the game, your goal is to survive. While the lights are on, the creatures are passive and don't attack you. You have a hunger and energy bar that you need to maintain by finding food in the IKEA. You can also pick up objects, rotate them and place them. It's very limitless and it really feels like you can build literally anything. Really cool concept that was executed surprisingly well for a Roblox game. However, at any time, the light could suddenly turn off. While the lights are off, the IKEA employees are aggressive and will attack you. This is where the whole base building concept really shines. You build your base during the day and hide there at night. Or you can just run around and survive since the employees are easily outrunnable, especially when the stamina bar goes down extremely slowly. Every now and then, the night are a bit different. And the employees can be faster. The real fun of the game is building your base and kind of scanning out your surrounding area. The game is simple, it might even be a bit too simple at times since this is really all you do. I, by the way, really appreciate how you don't lose everything when you die. This is the type of game to do something like that. I think this is a great little game. I will put it in the B tier, since it's still very small with not a lot of content. Doors is an extremely popular Roblox horror game. And for a very good reason. The game is very simple and easy to learn. I think it's the go-to Roblox horror game. In the game, you walk through 100 doors. Each room is a bit different from each other, which is cool. There's also a chance that a monster will spawn. There are different monsters with different ways of surviving them. The game is actually pretty challenging. At door 50, there is a special library room with a blind monster. It's a very intense part. Basically you look for books that give you a code to unlock the door to room 51. The blind monster is called Figure. He's pretty scary and I like how he makes two unique appearances throughout the game. There is also a monster called Seek. When you encounter him you need to run. I think he is executed very well. It's so unexpected and chaotic. There are a lot more monsters in the game as well, such as Rush, Ambush, Screech and Halt. Anyways, Doors is a very replayable and well-made game with a lot of thought put into it. Even though the randomly generated rooms are cool and add replay value, the monsters are very easy to get used to. I think it's the lack of content that makes this game not as good as it could be. I don't really have a reason to play the game because Floor 2 still isn't out. But for what it is, it's a really well-made game. It's decently scary, the gameplay is pretty good, it has a really good art direction, and playing with friends is fun. Just like Apeirophobia, I have never played the Rake Remastered. However, I actually found the Rake Remastered to be an okay game. It does not have a lot to offer other than trying not to get killed. The Rake Remastered is very similar to 3008 in terms of gameplay. You run around in a massive area and either try to survive or gather items and find safe places that you can hide in during the night. During the day, you are safe and during the night, you are not. Pretty much the same idea as 3008. Now, I don't really like the stamina bar in this game. It's not as bad as Apeirophobia, where you have to guess when you are gonna run out of stamina. Still, I think the stamina regenerates way too slowly. And jumping gets rid of a pretty significant part of your stamina bar. It can get a little annoying, especially when you are trying to run away from the Rake. He is pretty fast and very hard to run away from. Also the game gets boring pretty quickly. It's the same gameplay cycle over and over again. 3008 also has a little bit of repetitive gameplay, but in 3008 you can build your own base, while the Rake Remastered has a limited number of safe areas. I do really like the winter forest setting the game takes place in, and getting chased by the Rake while an intense chase music is playing is pretty scary. The most fun I had playing this game was when I was surviving with the other players on the server. Short Creepy Stories is a really good horror game. It's nothing like any other horror game on Roblox. Short Creepy Stories is exactly what it sounds like. The game consists of short, creepy stories. Each story is a unique experience and they are all pretty scary. It's very clear that this game is inspired by games made by Chilla's art. Those games have really good reviews and it makes a lot of sense to make a game similar to them. The gameplay is nothing amazing, but that's not really the point. Each of these stories focus on horror and creepy imagery. The first story I played was called Nightmare Next Door. And I think it was pretty good. The game looks really good as well and it's really good at building tension. Nightmare Next Door was pretty short, but you get a lot out of it. Next one I played was called Night Shift on Route 90. I liked this one more than the other ones. It was clearly inspired by a game called Night Shift. I think this one is legitimately scary and really well made. The other stories were cool too. Overall, I really enjoyed short creepy stories. The only problem is that it gets repetitive after you have played all of the stories. Nightlight is just not good. The gameplay is extremely boring with really no effort put into it. Now, I never beat this game, because I just did not have the motivation to do so. Also I heard that pretty much nothing happens if you win. Anyway, this game has a fetch quest system that somehow is worse than Apeirophobia. You run around a giant and confusing house layout and find 8 notes that spell out the word selfish. You have to do this 3 more times while avoiding a monster and while making sure that your candle does not run out. There are matches around the house that you can pick up to keep your candle lit. If your candle runs out, this weird dude kills you. There are also other monsters like this guy. He chases you regardless of your candle and he is painfully outrunnable. This section of the video is probably pretty short, but that's because there is not really that much to say about this game. I guess it's pretty scary sometimes and the developer of the game is nice. But the gameplay is so just, nothing. One of the most popular types of Roblox games are obbies. Or, in other words, parkour maps and obstacle courses. There are also horror-themed versions of these parkour maps. The problem is that they are not very good. There are a lot of these horror obbies, but since they are all pretty similar, I'm going to cover these games in one section. Anyway, Papa Pizza's Pizzeria is a scary obby. In the game, we are in a pizzeria, for the first like 5 seconds, and then we go into like a factory thing, with scary things. Every once in a while, you actually get chased by him. I guess it's a pretty cool twist to the regular obbies. Oh yeah, we also have Escape Siren Cop's Prison. This is also a scary obby. I think this one is a little better than the other one, because it has this one bit where you dig. All of these scary obbies are pretty short and innocent. But since they are not anything special and they are not scary at all, I can't rank them high. And there we go. That's my ranking. Goodbye.